The stars outside the Resolute's bridge shimmered like cold fire. Silence filled the command deck, broken only by the steady hum of the ship's systems. Captain Arya Solon stood at the center, her hands behind her back, as locked on the swirling blue light of the Veil of Sarek ahead. This was not just another star system. The Veil was a border, a boundary between human-controlled space and the vast domain of the Corellian Empire. The Empire, once rulers of 1,000 systems, had withdrawn behind the Veil decades ago after losing control of the outer worlds. Their technology was advanced, their minds sharper than most. They were not enemies. Not yet. But they were watching. "Status report," Arya said calmly. Commander Ryle turned from his console. "All systems nominal. No signs of weapons lock or cloaked vessels." He paused. "Still no response to our diplomatic signal." Arya nodded slowly. "Keep the channel open. They'll hear us eventually." She didn't show it, but she felt the tension in the room. The crew didn't know what to expect. The Corellians were telepaths. Not fully, not like in old science fiction stories, but close. They could project thoughts, influence emotions, and most of all, they could sense weakness. Lieutenant Mara, the young communications officer, looked up nervously. "Captain, do you really think they'll talk?" "I think they're already listening," Arya said. "They always listen." The Resolute was a diplomatic-class warship, equipped for peace, armed for war. Its sleek design carried weapons strong enough to destroy cities, but its true strength lay in what Arya brought to the bridge: reason, patience, and a mind trained in both human and alien psychology. She had studied Corellian logic for years, trying to understand how they thought, how they judged others. Just then, the ship shuddered. Lights flickered. Crew members stiffened. "What was that?" Ryle barked. Lieutenant Mara's fingers danced over her console. No impact. No weapons fired. Energy spike from outside. "It passed through our shields." Arya narrowed her eyes. "Put it on screen." The main view shifted. The stars stretched for miles, but just beyond them, a ripple of light shimmered, like heat rising from desert sand. A shape moved inside it. Or maybe not a shape. Maybe just the suggestion of one. It vanished a moment later. Ryle looked to Arya. "Was that a warning?" "No," she said softly. "That was a handshake. A Corellian hello. They're saying, 'We see you.'" Another moment passed, then the temperature on the bridge dropped slightly. Crew members shivered. Arya felt it too, not cold on her skin, but something else. A pressure. A presence. "They're probing us," she said. "Testing our minds. Seeing if we're afraid." Lieutenant Mara looked pale. "Are we supposed to feel this pressure?" "Yes. And we're supposed to respond." Arya walked to her console and opened a channel, not a voice message, but a wave of data. Music, images, math, language, poetry. She sent them all, layers of human thought, culture, and emotion. A signal of peace, layered with complexity and meaning. "They won't understand all of it," she said, "but they'll understand enough." "Captain," Ryle said, frowning, "maybe they only understand strength." Arya turned to face him. "That's what they expect from us. Ships. Guns. Fear. We're going to show them something else." The crew was silent again. Not from fear this time, but from uncertainty. Far beyond the veil, in the darkness where no human eyes could see, something moved again. The stars flickered slightly. The Corellians had received the message. They were thinking, waiting, and watching. The Resolute floated in the quiet dark, just outside the reach of the Veil of Sarek. Days had passed since Captain Arya Solon sent her transmission: art, numbers, music, and words crafted to reach a species that barely spoke aloud. Still, there was no reply. In the dim glow of the bridge, Commander Ryle paced, his boots clicking against the floor. "Captain, we've waited long enough. If they're going to respond, they would have done it by now." Arya sat in her command chair, her eyes calm but alert. "They don't work on our clock. Corellians measure time by thought, not seconds." Lieutenant Mara interrupted from her station. "Captain, I've got something. It's not voice or code. It's rhythm, like a pulse. Low frequency." "Let's hear it," Arya said. The speakers on the bridge emitted a deep, slow thrum. Then silence. Then another thrum. It wasn't random, it repeated, changing slightly each time, like a heartbeat learning to speak. Arya leaned forward. "Record and map it. Let's see if it's a pattern." A few minutes later, the rhythm formed a series of pulses, spaced by strange intervals. At first glance, it looked meaningless. But Arya's mind, trained in alien logic, saw more. "It's a test," she said. "They're watching how we respond. They're not just listening to what we say, they want to know how we think." What do you mean? Ryle asked. Corellians don't trust words. They trust how minds move. This signal, it's a logic puzzle. The way we reply tells them if we're worth their time. She stood and walked to the central console. Her fingers danced across the display. We'll answer in rhythm. 3 beats, a pause, then a shift in pattern. Use Fibonacci's sequence with a harmonic bass. Give it a human fingerprint. Mara blinked. You think they'll understand that? They're already watching our thoughts. Let's show them we're more than instincts and weapons. The Resolute sent its reply, a melody made from numbers, logic, and something close to music. Not beautiful in the usual way, but structured, intelligent. For an hour, there was nothing. Just the hum of the engines and the steady pulse of the ship's core. Then the stars outside shifted. Not literally, but the crew felt it. Like a room tilting just slightly. Mara gasped. Captain, I think we're inside something. On the view screen, the edge of the veil shimmered, and slowly, a massive shape faded into view, part metal, part energy, and impossibly silent. A Corellian ship. Not sleek like human vessels. It looked grown, not built. Curves, spires, glowing lines that moved like veins. It was cloaked, Ryle said, his voice low. They were here the whole time. A moment later, a new signal hit the Resolute. Not sound, not light, but thought. Arya gripped the sides of her chair. Her mind filled with images, not hers. Strange symbols. Flashes of memory. A desert with 3 moons. An old tree with glowing leaves. Faces without eyes. It lasted only a second, but it left her breathless. She looked around. Mara was trembling. Ryle gritted his teeth. They're scanning us, Arya said. Deeply. Beyond biology. They're looking into how we are, what drives us. This is an invasion, Ryle snapped. They're inside our minds. No, Arya said firmly. This is how they see. This is their handshake. The signal faded. Then, the Corellian ship responded, not with sound, but with light. Symbols lit up along its hull, forming a sequence. Arya stared. It's a message, she whispered. They want a dialogue. Not in language. In thought structure. She looked to her science officer. I want a model built, brain-to-brain interface, but low power. We'll simulate our responses and send them through the AI translator. We need to show them our way of thinking carefully, honestly. Ryle didn't look convinced. And if we show them our thoughts, our strategy, our limits, what's stopping them from turning that knowledge into a weapon? Arya met his eyes. Because we won't show them weakness. We'll show them wonder, curiosity, possibility. That's what humans are. If they fear us now, they'll see more than ships. They'll see the minds behind them. The crew worked through the night. Arya barely rested. Every signal exchanged was another step forward or back. By dawn ship time, the Corellian vessel powered up a soft field around the Resolute. It wasn't a weapon. It was a bubble of silence, a way to shut out the galaxy and speak, mind to mind. The true conversation had begun. Captain Arya Solon stood alone in her quarters, eyes fixed on the stars. Outside, the Corellian vessel still hovered like a dream made of light and bone. It hadn't moved, not even slightly. It didn't need to. Its presence was enough to fill the entire view, imposing, silent, alive. For days now, the Resolute had been inside the Corellians' communication field. Thought signals, abstract messages, symbolic pulses. It was like learning to speak using only emotions and mathematics. Arya's head ached from it all, but she also felt something rare, progress. She believed they were starting to understand each other. Not perfectly, not even comfortably, but enough to avoid war. But not everyone on board shared her optimism. Commander Ryle stood in the war room, facing a group of senior officers. A tactical display floated between them, showing the positions of nearby Corellian patrols. He tapped one red dot. We are surrounded, he said flatly. They could vaporize us in seconds. Lieutenant Ward, head of security, folded his arms. And we're just supposed to sit here and hope they don't? They haven't made a single hostile move, Lieutenant Mara said quietly from the corner. Yet, Ryle snapped. They've entered our minds, projected illusions, and now they're guiding our systems from the outside. If that's not hostile, what is? It's how they communicate, Mara said, though her voice trembled. Ryle shook his head. They could be preparing to disable us, invade Earth next, and we wouldn't even know it. Captain Solon's strategy might get us all killed. The room fell silent. That last sentence had weight. Too much weight. Arya entered without warning. Her eyes passed over each officer, calmly but firmly. Continue your discussion, Commander, she said. Ryle stiffened. Captain, we're simply exploring alternatives. You mean preparing for a fight, she said. Tell me, what does that achieve? Do you believe we can outmatch a Corellian fleet? Ryle didn't answer immediately. I believe we should be ready. Our diplomacy is based on the assumption that they think like we do. What if they don't? Arya stepped closer to the display. They don't. And that's the point. They don't think like us. But they're not blind. They're watching how we react. Right now, we're a test. A puzzle. If we answer with fear, they'll respond the only way they know how. Control. And if they don't like what they see? Ryle challenged. If we show them trust, and they decide to strike anyway? Arya didn't blink. Then we'll defend ourselves. But we will not fire first. That's an order. Ryle's jaw tightened. He saluted and left the room. Later, Arya sat in the AI chamber with Dr. Lean, the ship's xenolinguist. Around them, holograms spun, representations of Corellian signals, flowing like digital rivers. The ship's AI was translating them slowly, turning symbols into intent, patterns into meaning. They're giving us something, Dr. Lean said. Look at this stream here. It's not random. It's their memory. A piece of their past. Arya leaned in. A shared memory? Yes. A moment of their history. Maybe a test. Maybe a gift. Maybe both. The memory showed a planet, desolate, quiet, once green, now gray. Figures stood in silence, watching the sky. Then came machines, huge, metal, human-looking. Not Terran, but close. The memory ended abruptly. They've been invaded before, Arya said quietly. Maybe even by a species like us. That would explain their fear. Dr. Lean nodded. They see us as a mirror. Arya looked troubled. We need to show them we broke that mirror. We don't want to become what they fear. That evening, Arya reviewed a secret message she had received earlier. It wasn't from Earth Command. It wasn't from any human source at all. It came from a Corellian defector, someone calling themselves Eris. The message was short, translated automatically by the AI. He watches you. He sees the lines in your mind. He fears your chaos. Do not become predictable. Do not become silent. If you think like him, he wins. If you think like you, he listens. It was unsigned, but the signature was unmistakable, a symbol of two spirals crossing, a sign of rebellion in Corellian culture. Whoever Eris was, they were on her side. Or at least, not on Vectar's. Captain Arya Solon closed the file and sat back. Enemies without, enemies within. She was standing on a wire, high above war, with only her mind to balance her. And somewhere out there, Vectar was watching. Waiting. Testing. The next move would be the most important yet. The atmosphere inside the Resolute was no longer tense, it was silent. Too silent. The kind that made crew members speak in whispers, afraid their thoughts might echo too loud. Captain Arya Solon stood on the bridge, staring at the Corellian ship still looming beyond the view screen. For nearly an hour, it had emitted no signals, no pulses, not even a single thought pattern. The silence wasn't peace. It was a challenge. Then, without warning, a new signal arrived, clearer than any before. But this one was different. The AI translated the symbols into a flat, simple message. Test accepted. Simulation begins. Prepare your mind. Arya felt the weight of it settle in her chest. The Corellians weren't going to talk anymore. They wanted a duel not of weapons, but of intellect. The bridge crew turned to her. Commander Ryle narrowed his eyes. You knew this was coming. Arya nodded. This is how they decide everything. Conflict, trust, territory, it's all determined through thought duels. One mind against another. So it's a game? Ryle asked. No, Arya replied softly. It's war. Just a smarter version of it. She issued the order to transfer all simulation functions to the neural interface room, a chamber deep in the heart of the ship. It was built for experimental mind-to-mind links. Now it would become the battlefield. Inside the chamber, Arya laid back into the neural cradle. Gel nodes attached to her temples, reading her brain's electrical patterns and converting them into digital responses. On the far side of the chamber, a visualizer began to display a 3D map of a virtual battlefield. A moment later, the Corellian signal connected. Two minds. One space. Arya's vision blurred. When she opened her eyes, she was standing on a vast plane of shifting light and metal. The sky above was fractal and endless. A strange wind moved in patterns, not air, but data. Thought itself. Across from her stood a figure, tall, silver-skinned, featureless. Not Vectar himself, but a projection of his mind. His presence felt cold, precise, and incredibly focused. The duel began without a single word. The field shifted. Pillars rose around them, each representing decisions, ethics, logic, fear. Arya understood immediately. Each pillar was a strategy, a concept for solving a problem or winning a battle. She could choose one and respond. Vector's mind chose dominance. The pillar he activated built a wall, strong, absolute, direct. Arya chose adaptation. Her wall bent, curved, absorbed the strike. Not weakness, flexibility. She saw the Corellian presence hesitate. The simulation continued, each round more complex. Vector's mind moved like ice, sharp, beautiful, but rigid. He played by rules, perfect ones. Arya realized quickly that rules were his weakness. She stopped using the expected strategies. Instead of logic trees, she used emotion diagrams. Instead of direct responses, she asked questions within questions. And then, she did something no Corellian would expect. She introduced chaos. Not destruction, but randomness. Unpredictable variables. Human creativity. A poem from Earth's ancient past appeared in the simulation. I am not made of stone or star, but fire and chance, and things you'll never understand. The Corellian construct faltered. The projection blinked. Vector was confused. He sent a burst of symbols, an accusation. This is not logic. Arya responded with a simple message. No, it's thought. She began to reshape the battlefield itself, not through weapons or defense, but through art. She painted equations in the air, turned memories into weaponless defenses. Her childhood memory of looking at the night sky with her father became a shield. A laugh she once shared with a friend became a turning point in the simulation's code. It was messy, unclear, human, and it was working. The Corellian field pulsed, then buckled. Not broken, but overwhelmed. The duel paused. Arya felt her connection to Vector stretch thin. She could feel his mind now tense, guarded, but curious. He wasn't angry. He was listening. Back on the bridge, Dr. Lean and Mara watched the simulation readouts. The Corellian signals had slowed. No signs of attack. Captain's strategy is unusual, Dr. Lean whispered. She's not trying to win, Mara said quietly. She's trying to be understood. The duel ended after one final image. Arya projected Earth, not its cities, not its armies, but its oceans, forests, storms, and stars. Not perfection, but potential. The Corellian ship powered down its thought field. The glow dimmed. The signal was clear. They were no longer testing her. They had accepted the answer. Arya opened her eyes in the cradle, her body weak, her mind stretched thin. Ryle stood nearby, staring at her like he had seen a ghost. You didn't fight, he said. No, Arya whispered. I thought. And it had been enough. Silence returned to the Resolute after the duel. But this time, it wasn't the heavy, uncertain silence of fear. It was the calm after a storm, quiet, but charged with something unspoken. The crew moved carefully through the halls. No one said it aloud, but everyone knew something had changed. On the bridge, Captain Arya Solon stood before the main screen. The Corellian vessel remained in position, but its colors had shifted. The glowing lines that once pulsed in steady red now moved in gentle blues and greens. They're not preparing for war anymore, Arya said. They're waiting. Waiting for what? Asked Commander Ryle, standing stiff beside her. For a conversation, she replied. A soft tone echoed through the ship. A new signal had arrived, but this time, it wasn't a test or a simulation. It was a direct invitation. Private communication requested. One mind to one mind. Vector, Arya said. He wants to speak with me. Ryle stepped forward. Captain, this could be a trap. If they get a direct line into your thoughts again. I survived the duel. I'll survive this. But why you? Why not through our systems? Because he doesn't trust systems. He wants to understand the person behind the choices. And I want to understand him. The neural interface room was dim, lit only by soft blue lights and the glow of the mental relay. Arya lay back in the cradle, as she had during the duel, but this time there would be no shared battlefield, just a mental channel between two minds. The connection opened with a pulse of light, and then she felt it, Vector's presence. It wasn't aggressive. It was vast, cold, and cautious. Words came slowly, formed by ideas rather than sound. You are not like the others. Arya let her thoughts answer. There are many like me. You've only seen our ships, not our minds. A pause. You changed the rules. You wrote them. I chose not to follow. She felt a flicker from him. Not anger. Curiosity. Humans are dangerous. Yes, she admitted. So are you. We lost our trust in chaos. It destroyed much of what we were. Now we fear it. We fear control, she answered. We've been ruled before. We fought to be free. Now we fight to be better. A memory drifted into her mind, not her own, but his. She saw a world burning. Not from war, but from thought. A telepathic civil war, ideas weaponized, trust shattered. The Corellians had once tried total mind-sharing. It had broken them. Now, they feared openness as much as they feared lies. Vectar's presence dimmed for a moment, then returned. You could be another fire, or a new beginning. Arya showed him Earth, its chaos, its beauty, its contradictions. She didn't hide the wars or the failures, but she showed the art, the science, the growth. We're not perfect, she said, but we learn, we adapt, and we never stop reaching forward. Vectar's final message was simple. The corridor is open. Your path will not be blocked. The link closed. Back on the bridge, the Corellian vessel began to shift. Its structure folded, twisted, and then slowly vanished into the Veil of Sarek. One moment it was there. The next, it was gone. Mara confirmed it. They've deactivated all local cloaking and patrol systems. The corridor is open, Captain. We're clear to pass. A cheer nearly broke out on the bridge, but Arya raised a hand. Let's not celebrate too loudly. We didn't win a war. We earned trust. That's harder and more fragile. Ryle approached, quiet for once. You took a risk, he said. It could have gone the other way. She nodded. Every real step forward is a risk. But now they've seen what we are. Not just our ships. Our minds. Ryle looked at her, something like respect in his eyes. What happens now? We go home, Arya said. And we tell the truth. Not just that we opened the corridor, but how we did it. Think they'll believe it? Some will, she said. And some won't. But it's the beginning of something bigger. Maybe peace. Maybe more. That night, as the Resolute turned away from the Veil and began the journey home, a quiet message arrived on a private channel. It bore the same symbol as before, two spirals crossing. It was from Eris, the defector. He listened. I never thought he would. You gave him what we forgot we had choice. Thank you. Arya read the message, then turned off the screen. She looked out into the stars and whispered to herself. We were feared for our ships. Now they've seen our minds. Let's hope that's enough. The Resolute glided through space on its return journey to Earth, leaving behind the Veil of Sarek and the shadow of the Corellian Empire. The silence aboard was no longer tense, it was thoughtful. Something meaningful had happened out there. Something that most of the galaxy would never fully understand. Captain Arya Solon sat in her quarters, the lights dimmed, her mind still recovering from the intensity of the duel and the conversation with Vectar. The weight of it all lingered, not fear, not regret, but the awareness that everything had changed. Not just for her. For humanity. A soft chime sounded at her door. Come in, she said. Commander Ryle stepped through. His posture was still sharp, but his tone had softened. Captain, he said, we've received a message from Earth Command. They want a full report. They're skeptical. Arya gave a tired smile. Of course they are. They were expecting diplomacy backed by a show of force. Instead, they'll get poetry, thought maps, and a nervous alien fleet that left without firing a shot. They may not call that a victory, Ryle said. They don't have to, Arya replied. We didn't go there to win. We went there to be seen. Ryle hesitated, then sat across from her. You know, I didn't believe in any of this. Not at first. I thought the only way to keep peace was to show strength. But after watching what you did, I think I was wrong. She looked at him with quiet appreciation. You weren't wrong. You were careful. That's not a bad thing. But caution alone doesn't build bridges. You need courage for that. Ryle nodded slowly. So what now? Arya leaned back in her chair, eyes on the stars outside. We tell our story. Honestly. Every detail, what we risked, what we learned, what we saw. Not everyone will accept it. Some will say we were lucky. Others will say we were weak. But we'll know the truth, Ryle finished. Yes, she said. And maybe the Corellians will too. The next day, Arya stood in the ship's main recording room. A camera hovered in the air, ready to broadcast her words to Earth Command and the Terran Union Council. Officers stood behind her, silent and waiting. She began her report not with data, but with a message. When we approached the Veil of Sarek, the Corellians feared our ships. They saw our engines, our weapons, our formations. But when they truly looked, they saw something else. They saw minds. Curious, chaotic, flawed, but honest. We didn't conquer them. We didn't trade threats. We listened. We adapted. We thought. She paused. And for the first time in decades, they listened back. The message was sent, and the wait began. Arya knew the council would debate, question, analyze every part of it. Some would be disappointed there was no war. Others would be afraid of what openness might bring. But she had no doubt that somewhere, perhaps in a quiet room, perhaps in a place of power, someone would understand. 2 days later, a reply came. Not from Earth Command. From the Corellian Empire. It wasn't a signal. It was a beacon, transmitted across deep space and decoded by the Resolute's AI. The message was simple. 6 words, translated perfectly. We no longer fear your thoughts. Arya stared at the words for a long time. She said nothing. She didn't need to. Back on Earth, news of the open corridor spread quickly. Traders saw opportunity. Scientists saw new frontiers. Politicians argued over the meaning of peace. But deep within human culture, something subtle began to shift. People began to talk, not just about technology or territory, but about understanding. Schools taught the duel not as a battle, but as a conversation. Children learned the names of both Arya Solon and Vectar, not as enemies, but as minds that met in the dark and chose something better. Weeks later, a Corellian vessel appeared in orbit over Luna Base, not to invade, but to visit. Its crew shared only one message. We came to learn. Arya stood beneath Earth's sky once more, feeling the wind on her face. It had been a long time since she'd seen a blue sky. She looked up at the stars, faint in the daylight, and smiled. War had not come. Understanding had. And it was only the beginning.